then the life cycle. So our activities and fragments have different states, and there are some limitations. One of the things is, while an activity has a state, you cannot actually ask an activity what state it has. There are some, and actually recording the state has some really nasty, tricky bits in getting it correct without doing that properly. So what they have done is basically in the architecture component created something called a life cycle. If you use a compatibility activity, so activity compat or etc., then or a compatibility fragment, it will automatically be enabled for life cycles. So you can just ask for the life cycle, ask what the current state is, but also be informed if there is a change. So, and the change states have been simplified a little bit. So as we can see in this diagram, which is a redrawing of the one on the website, there are 5 states: initialized, destroyed, created, started, and resumed. So initially you're in an initially state, then there's an event on create that is called when the application is created. This is where all the objects are already not the application, the activity is created. This is where you initialize your objects, etc. Make sure that you have a layout to display. When it's created, it is not visible. On start is when your activity becomes visible, but it's not active. So the started activity, you are visible but not running. One of the things to keep in mind there is that you can often go from that the started and resumed states. So resumed is when you're actually running and live. But if you use 2 screen windows, which is an option in Android, you can display 2 applications at the same time. There's only one of those that is in the resumed state, and one is only in the started state. Sometimes, if you are not the active window, you want to stop processing. But for example, if you're a video player, people might want to watch your video while they are working on something else. So the video player should still continue playing the video if it's in the started state. So these are the various states that exist. And when you go in on stop, you might want to stop things like playing video or trying to download something off the internet, etc. Or observing changes in a database or something that you may want to not do anymore. And then so in on destroy you do this, and then when you're in destroyed you do that. So your component is never going from initialized to destroyed. And what about recreation then? Well, if it's recreated, that particular object will go, and there will be a new object that will start in initialized state, but it may have a state passed along to it in its onCreate parameter or method. As far as Lifecycle is concerned, it is still in onCreate, or it's an initialized state. So if you want to, so basically life cycles are there to help you react to these changes in what the state of your activity or fragment is. How do you do that? Well, you create something called a Lifecycle Observer. Lifecycle Observer is a class that can handle these events. So how do you do that? Well, you put this annotation on a method that add on Lifecycle event with the particular event. that you are interested in. Which event do you say? Well, go back to the image. There's on create, on start, on resume, on pause, on stop, and on destroy. And yes, you can find this in the documentation. You see, documentation is really important on understanding this. So for these lifecycle events, I want to do something like, okay, I want to connect to a listener when we resume the thing, and when we pause, we are going to disconnect the listener, so we are not going to be informed when, say, someone finished downloading an image. Note that often you might want to have this observer be an inner class, so that you can then, of an activity or something like that, then when you then react to the event, you just call in your listener, you call to something that is in the outer class. Opposite to this are lifecycle owners that are basically app compat activity or fragment, but you can create your own one. As long as you have a lifecycle, you can be a lifecycle owner. It's a fairly simple interface. So anything that has a lifecycle, or that you can have a sensible lifecycle, you can make it a lifecycle owner, and it will exist for that duration. In particularly, a view model can also be a lifecycle owner, and that can have some. We'll come back to view models later. So yes, and of course, what you can say with life cycles, you can actually say what is the state. So am I active? Okay, then I'm going to play music. Otherwise, I'm just going to not do anything. And maybe when we resume, we will be told that we can play music. And then we check whether we can play music. But if someone presses a play, something happens that is okay, now I want to do it. I need to be able to check what the state is, whether I should be able to do it at that point in time. Say if you're downloading a video and you want to play it once it's finished downloading. You want to only play your video when you're actually in a visible state. Something like that.